afternoon, and welcome to our Glendale City Council workshop. This meeting is for council members to review and discuss important issues, projects, and future council meeting agenda items. It's a work-study session only and allows the council to hear input from city staff. No action will be taken at this workshop, and there will not be an opportunity for public comment. This meeting is streaming live on Glendale's Facebook and YouTube pages and the city's cable television station, Glendale Channel 11. Thank you for joining us.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Glendale City Council workshop session. It's September 23rd, 2025. This meeting is called to order. I'm not going to call attendance because everybody's here. So with that said, before we go to Ms. Bauer, Mr. Phelps, you had something you'd like to do?
Yes, Mayor, thank you for the courtesy, Mayor and members of the council. I'm very pleased today to announce to you that we have, after a lengthy process, we have hired our next Director of Intergovernmental Relations. And so today we'll let you know that Jenna Carrico, which I think many of you may know from her experience here in the West Valley, has accepted to come on board as our Director of Intergov. And I couldn't be more excited. You know, my late stepfather was an executive with the Panasonic company, and it's really who got me into the business world and thinking like a business person. And one of his things he always said is he said, Kevin, remember that whatever you do, whatever you're thinking of, it's always about the people. And so he would refer to people, he'd always say, kind of the family joke was, Bob would say, oh, they're really good people. What I want to say is Jenna's got incredible experience. She's well respected. She knows, she has the relationship. She's trusted within the organization, but she's also just really good people. I think she's going to fit in so well with our team and the way we approach things, the way she'll help serve this council and make sure that you have what you needed. And so Jenna, she's here. I don't know if you want to come up and just say hello and stuff, but welcome aboard.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm incredibly honored and humbled to be joining the Glendale team. I know many of you from my 5.5 years in Goodyear and spent some time in Peoria before that. So excited to continue to grow in the West Valley, get to know each of you and your priorities in your districts a little bit better when I start on the 20th. So thank you so very much.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, if that's all you have, Mr. Phelps, Ms. Bauer, would you get into item number 1 for us, please?
Downtown Campus Reinvestment Project Update.
Well, Mayor and members of the council, here to provide our next update on our downtown campus reinvestment project. It will be led by Eddie Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. As stated, this is our next update. Typically, at this time, we review what's happening with the City Hall construction progress. This one's going to take a little bit different path. We're going to focus primarily on Murphy Park. This is primarily the next step in the process from our last meeting that we had in June that we discussed the concept or schematic design of Murphy Park. So we want to show you how that's progressed since then. We have about less than 8 months more to go in the construction process, and this presentation is really key today because with that we need to keep momentum going as we begin the finishing elements of the park in terms of design and then getting it ready for construction. So we want to meet the goal of having both the park and the main campus buildings be completed around the same time. So it's really important that we show you what we have today, and at the end of this presentation we'll be seeking consensus on moving forward with what we were going to call GMP4, which is the next construction package primarily for the park. So with me to present today is Michael Jacobs. He's the principal of Holly Street Studio. And then to my right is Nate Kirby. He's a senior architect, landscape architect with Coldwell Sheeler. So they will be assisting in the presentation. Our agenda for today is we want to do a quick recap because it's been a couple months since you've last seen the park. I want to show you a couple of the drivers that we've had before. And based on what we heard, both input and feedback from collective folks, the departments, leadership, et cetera, we want to show you the design update and how that's manifested itself into what we have is going to be our documents and then the basis for our guaranteed maximum price. And at the very end of the presentation, we'll talk a little bit about where we are with budget and then how it affects the schedule. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Michael and we'll run through the beginning of the recap.
Thank you, Eddie. Mayor, Council, good to be back here. The first slide just takes us back to before we were on the project, when you guys were starting to define the project. So we always want to touch base on the vision and goals. I think number 9 is really what we're talking about today, with the downtown campus wants to feel like one campus. Next slide. This is more specific to the challenges when we started back up on Murphy Park, of the 7 key items, thank you, that we really wanted to make sure as a design team we were paying attention to and being able to address as we talk with you. So again, as Eddie mentioned, back June 24th, we had a couple slides. This slide goes back a little bit further. So back April 2024, this is where we were at the project, because we had a slight pause on Murphy Park while other items were being considered. So the next slide shows you the 3 options that we presented at June 24th. And at that time, there was consensus to move forward with what was C, option C, or baseline plus plus. And that's what we want to talk to you about today. So Nate will kind of get into the details of some of the landscape that's going around the park at this time.
Thank you, Michael. Mayor, council members, the next few slides portray some of the inspiration imagery for the park that would have been guiding the design team in the last few months. So starting with the landscape vibe, what we've really been striving to do here is to emphasize and celebrate the lush oasis feel that downtown Glendale is really known for. And as you can see in some of these photos from some of the projects we've done in the valley, the use of desert adapted plant material to create green, lush spaces in public spaces. So balancing the use of lawn areas and large shade trees to provide spaces that are flexible and programmable, using a mix of shrubs and accent plant material to provide texture and a variety of green along the planting edges. This is kind of the vibe of the landscape that we're striving for the park. Along the streetscape, in the same vein, we've been a goal has been to create a green edge along the perimeter of the park, so that if you're outside at the perimeter and looking in, you see that green and you want to be drawn in. And in doing so, we're providing street trees, shade trees along the edge, and with that, you're providing a landscape buffer, which is separating that pedestrian sidewalk to create a comfortable and safe pedestrian space along the perimeter. Also looking at smaller gathering spaces, spaces for seating, bike parking, and also incorporating the historic light poles around the perimeter to tie in with the historic downtown district. Next. This slide is portraying our goals of providing a comfortable, shady, and flexible spaces for community events and activities in the park. Again, strategically locating the turf and shade areas to provide that programming for any events such as pop-up retail, and kind of that balance of medium-sized gathering spaces in those flexible turf areas. Next. And speaking of programming, here's some examples of the opportunities for programming in the park. There's endless opportunities, honestly, but just opportunities such as yoga on the lawn, bring the library into the park, farmers markets, and games in the park, just endless opportunities to bring the community together. So looking back at Concept C, which was presented in June 24, back in June 24, we wanted to discuss the main elements. This was the third of the 3 options that was all-inclusive, included the gazebo, included additional trees, and it was the all-inclusive scheme that has been driving the efforts for the design update that we'll be showing today. Next. So that brings us to today, this design update. Some of the main elements here are, as I mentioned, the gazebo. That was previously located in Concept C at the southeast corner of the park. There was comments that might be too busy, too loud, so that was moved to the northeast corner of the property. And with that, we're providing an accessible sloped plane up to that elevated platform for those special events. Mainly, that northeast corner is a little quieter, a little bit more not secluded, but it's better for special events on that northeast corner. Excuse me. So also looking at, this includes the event power that was desired from the city, providing site benches with ADA companion seating next to them, as well as the incorporation of the relocated donor plaques that were very important to the community. So we wanted to be conscious and make that clear that those are being relocated on site. And then we also worked with the civil engineers on this to provide grading and drainage. That's a big element of the water conveyance on the property. So you'll see that there's runnel grading in the new hardscape loop around the library, which is conveying water from turf area to turf area to its total outfall. And then also looking at the RNA poles. So there's new RNA poles around that interior loop hardscape space. Those are only at the interior of the park, not the exterior. The outside is the historic light poles, as we mentioned before. And then talking about the actual landscape. So we're looking at the planting zones. So as you can see in this scheme, what's shown in green is the turf areas in Murphy Park, and what's yellow and orange are the planting areas with decomposed granite top dressing. So you can see that at the perimeter where that tree edge is, that's where we have the DG landscape planting, as well as directly around the Velma Teague Library. And that was due to some of the issues that we're seeing in maintenance from the turf coming up against the walls of the building, so kind of separating that with the low plant material versus the turf. The main takeaway here is that the majority of the park is still turf and keeping within the character of what Murphy Park has historically been. And then looking at plant palette, so looking at the trees on site, specifically we've selected the evergreen elm, pistache, and oak trees just to provide a larger specimen that can provide shade and more size and mature growth in the long term for the property, and they'll thrive in this park setting. Looking at shrubs and accents, what we're looking at here is to provide a variation of color and texture in the park that provides year-round interest. You can go to the next one. And all this plant material is based on what was already selected for the City Hall as well. So it's the same palette, but on a reduced. It's fewer plant material specimen than in Murphy Park than what's on the City Hall project. And then the use of sculptural accent plant material for just emphasizing specific areas throughout the park, mostly in the those areas that were orange and yellow for the landscape areas, for just specific strategic use of more accent sculptural specimens. And there's just a few of these throughout the park. And then a little bit more detail on the donor plaques. So as you can see here, there's the 4 zones at the north, and then the 2 at the east, and then the south. So we've strategically located these donor plaques to be in those zones where they're kind of in those specific quadrants. And we're being strategic about relocating them based on where they were geographically located today. And that was based on comments from, trying to relocate them similar location to where they are today, so you can find them and go to the south side to find your name or a similar name that you're looking for. The next slide shows a little bit more of a zoom in of just how those plaques are being located on the hardscape loop, and how they relate to some of the other elements like the runnels and the bench locations. And then just for reference, you have the images on the right that describe how they've been removed. One was removed to see how the constructability of them, and if there's any issues, no damage or anything has been seen. So no concern with that to protect them. And then finally, looking at the looking at the site furnishings. The benches, the lighting, and the litter receptacles in the park are all elements that are matching what has been selected for City Hall as well. Again, going to that one campus concept that that's been mentioned before. So the bench, we're calling out the Landscape Forms Parkview bench, which is a traditional form with a modern flair and a little bit more durable than the existing wood benches on site. And then the RNA poles, as I've mentioned, on the interior of the park are more of a contemporary pole, but they blend well and they're versatile with both historic and contemporary designs. And what's really nice about these is that because you can have more heads on the poles, it reduces the amount of poles that are required, reducing clutter within the park. And then finally, the Landscape Forms Lakeside Litter receptacle is one that is more traditional with a modern flair as well, but just kind of fades away and is less of a focal point.
But before you go on, I have a question for you. On the two pictures of the benches, it appears the green one is just a normal bench. Is there any thought process as people that are going to try to sleep on these at night?
So that was a comment before, or excuse me, Mayor. Yes, that was a comment before, and we do intend that there would be the arm in the middle. There's not a photo to get that, but we're specifying it with that arm in the middle to separate and prevent the sleeping on the bench.
Okay, and then my second question on anything that you're putting in that will be on cement where kids will have the opportunity, I shouldn't say kids, I mean sometimes they're young adults with skateboards that tend to jump up and slide along. Any of those things that stop that from happening. I don't know what they're called, but I know they
Skate
put them.
deterrent.
I don't. Yeah, I have no idea what they're officially called, but it's to keep from grinding. Yeah, have to ask the young guy over here.
So that, Mayor, thank you for your comments. That center arm should help prevent that, and the length of it I think is 4 feet, 4 to 6 feet. I'd have to double check, but I believe it is about 4 feet in length. So that center arm should help deter that. We can look into additional to see if there is anything to separate even in between, but that center arm, they can't grind too far if they have that center arm, I guess. But we can look into that.
Okay,
in more
but the
detail.
other part of that question is anything else besides those benches that could have the opportunity for them to do that? Are you folks looking at that to prevent that from? It's easier to do it when they're brand new than it is to come back and try to fix it.
Yes. Yes, Mayor, that we can look into that and make sure that there's no skate opportunities
All right,
for
thank you.
skateboarders,
All right.
if there's any deterrence required.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Since we're stopped here, and I know you're going to be talking about colored lighting options, but are we moving on from lighting? Because I know there was some discussion about these kind of shower head looking lights that are being proposed, and there was some discussion about rewiring the existing lights and how these are going to be intermixed in. So are you going to show us that, or I don't see that slide in here.
Yes, we will be presenting some additional information, some additional slides on the specialty lighting on the poles. It is in a couple slides, or a few slides.
Okay, I'll wait. Thank you.
So back to the overall campus, the one campus. So this drawing shows you everything that's happened and has been designed for the Civic, City Hall, Council Chambers portion, and then you can see the continuation through Murphy Park. And just to kind of, two things that we're trying to drive from the beginning is like, how do we bring the park-like feel all the way to 59th as much as possible? And I think that shows that. And then also how to unite the circulation between the two things. So still respect that Murphy Park is its own and the campus is its own, but how do the two start to tie together? So the two additional things to talk about now are the specialty lighting and then also the gazebo. So next slide, I think, shows you. So with option C, one of the things that was requested is how can we add colored lighting into the park. So we have two different ideas that we're developing. So the next slide, the first one, this is the idea of colored lights that are on the RNA poles that shine up into some of the more mature existing trees. So I think there's about 6 locations of this. and it's programmable, so you can change the color as you want. Each tree could have a different color, or they all could have the same color as you're doing things. So that starts to highlight some of the kind of historic existing trees. And then the other thing that we started to develop is what's called a gobo projector. So it's projecting light, and on this, what we're doing is projecting it down onto the walkways. Again, you can play with color, any kind of color you want, and then also you can start to introduce different patterns within the projector. So you can see the discs on the lower left side, and then the photo just to the right of that of some things that are available. So these two things can work together, they can work separately, to do many different scenes that you would want to do throughout the park. So the next slide, and we can answer questions on lighting if they come up later. Next slide is the gazebo, and as Nate mentioned, it's on the northern portion of the park. It's about a 25-foot stage, and it has a canopy over it. It's not rain protected, it's shade protected. You can see on the left side there is what we call a sloped plane, so it's ADA accessible to get you up there. The stage itself, and we have some 3D images, is about 18 inches off the ground, so you do have this sense of being able to present or to have a gathering up there. Here we're showing people just kind of on a typical day-to-day if someone's out there having their lunch or just walking by. The next slide shows about 50 people in the grass there, and then we're just representing if there was a 4-piece band or something playing. The way the gazebo is designed, you can face any direction, so you could have people watching in the grass, sitting in the grass, or they could be on the south side in the sidewalk and some of the grass there. So then the next slides here, so we're looking northwest towards the Bank of America building in the background, so you can start to see the raised stage, a couple steps that get you up to it directly from the south side, and then the ramps off to the left. Next slide. This is looking east, so this is a better shot of that, the low wall there that actually hides the ramp behind it. So this is where we would do the skate deterrence, even though there's kind of landscape in front of it. And then you can see we're trying to be a little bit more playful, and while we're borrowing from the existing amphitheater design we have. So again, it's a shade canopy, it's not protecting from the rain. And then the final slide is what you would, if you were finishing this meeting in 8 months, walking over towards the library or towards City Hall. This is as you're just crossing the street, you're in Murphy Park, you see the gazebo as kind of an introduction, the library in the foreground, and then City Hall in the background. Yes.
Before we move on from the gazebo, where does this leave the three options that we left on the table for the library? We left on the table for the Velma Teague Library, either relocating the library to that, somewhere in the vicinity of that corner where the gazebo is going, or leaving it where it is and renovating it, or moving it to the promenade. The promenade was added in late. I don't know if there's even a consensus to add that in, but that hasn't come back to us, so I don't know, because we haven't determined the future of even where the location of Velma Teague Library is going to be. Is there adequate space remaining in these areas to even have that as an option?
Mayor and Council, Councilmember or Vice Mayor Tomilchoff. So you are correct. The study is still forthcoming. Those three options are still on the table. Two of those options are still in play as far as replacing or reconstructing the library where it stands today, or modifying it where it stands today, and or off-site. If the decision is to move forward with this proposed idea of the gazebo being on the northeast corner, we can definitely look at some opportunities along that edge of Glendale Drive or Glen Drive, because I think we're only talking about, I think it was about 11,000 square feet of area that we were considering to program. And also the 58th Avenue and Glendale Avenue edge. So there's possibilities to reconsider the intermediate site between where Velma Teague is today versus where the gazebo is. Again, without that study can be completed yet, we really don't know what the answer will be.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Garcia, because I was curious if, by proceeding with, and I believe you're looking for some consensus here, that we're eliminating that that as an option, but we're not necessarily eliminating, there's still room to punch that in somewhere in the perimeter of the park, if that's what the consensus of the council is, to move the library, leave it in the park, but move it somewhere in the park.
Mayor, council, vice mayor, that's our approach. I mean, again, we haven't gone through the full study yet, but, you know, we would look at other edge conditions to see if we can make it work. And again, that's still forthcoming.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, and if I could, I want to go back, because maybe I didn't phrase the question, I wasn't clear. The last time you showed us, you were going to be replacing, I think, all but the perimeter lighting in the park with these, and I don't mean to be insulting, but they do look like shower heads to me, this type of lighting. And part of the charm of our downtown and part of the charm of Murphy Park is some of the old style, old world type lighting. And I just want to make sure that we're clear that, and I thought that there had been a consensus to say, check and see if you can rewire some of those that are throughout the park and keep them where they are and use them, and then fill in with this other type of lighting. So I just want to make sure that I have a good understanding of where these lights that are in the slideshow are going to be used and what we're doing with the existing lights that are in the park.
Mayor, council, vice mayor Tolmachoff. So in previous meetings, including our presentation on the 24th of June, the explanation on the more of the modern pole fixture with its accessories and the heads that we just talked about was going to still remain in the interior of the park because it ties together the entire campus. We're using it on the City Hall project near the amphitheater, and this would extend into the Murphy Park surrounding where the loop is being built, etc. The perimeter lighting will remain as the historic lights, and you can see them in this rendering. So all of the pedestrian level lighting that exists on the street today, Glen Drive, 58th, Glendale Avenue, and even 59th, would remain in concert with the historic lighting. Yes, we would have to rewire those. We were respacing them a little bit better to get some better photometrics out of them. The plan in our scope right now is they would require some rewiring in that process. Yes, that is correct. And then we would relamp them properly so that we get an LED lamp. And we'll be working with our transportation department to make sure that we're dialing in the specifications for that. But no, the decision was made, or at least consensus that we received to the team, was to continue on with the more updated fixture known as the RNA pole, with its various aimable heads to light the pathways of the park and be in concert with the entire project and keep the perimeter lighting on the pedestrian level, the existing lighting that you see today.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was clear that we're not replacing all of the lighting with this new, more modern type lighting, that they're still going to have, from the streetscape anyway, that the park's still gonna look essentially the same as it always has.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, you are correct. That was the direction we received.
Okay, and then Mayor, I do have one more thing, if you can indulge me with one more question. And I don't remember whether there was a consensus, but I know we've talked about doing something to provide a sense of safety or security in the park. I know the blue emergency tap lights were talked about, whether there's going to be surveillance in the park, whether there's going to be, notification that it's going to be connected into the real-time crime center. I mean, the fact of the matter is that I don't think it's out of turn to be saying that, we have had a problem with crime in downtown Glendale. So in order for this park to be utilized to the fullest extent, we're going to have to make people feel safe. So where are we with that?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, we are dialing in, to your point, in the final construction documents. Currently within the scope, we do have some security measures within the park. Part of it is being facilitated by these RNA poles that we've been talking about. So we're being strategic about locations on where to provide additional security elements, whether it's camera or other accessories that we need. But incidentally, when we will be talking a little bit more about that as an item, as essentially a scope and cost item on the very last summary slide that we want to talk to you about the overall project budgets, because we would like to address security enhancements as well, because we do think there's some opportunities coming to to look at enhancements, especially in the current conditions that we are right now.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Regarding the gazebo, now that I see the rendition of it and such, I'm not as enamored with it as I was a few months ago. And I would like us to hold off on deciding a location on that until we've come to a conclusion on what we're going to, if anything, do with Velmateague Library. But it does occur to me that that gazebo might be a nice addition to the campus here at the Civic Center as an alternative site. I mean, over in Murphy Park, we've got a great big amphitheater to be used. And when we do some of our larger events, we do stage music over here in this area, and perhaps that gazebo would be, you know, something useful over here if we don't put it in at Murphy Park. Then the other, are you taking comments on the treescape at this point?
Mayor and Council, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Turner, if possible, we could, if we wrap up the presentation, the last couple of slides, we can come back and maybe get more specific with
I'm fine with
items
that.
you'd like to discuss. Is that,
As long
would
as
that
I
be
get
okay?
a chance again in a few minutes. Thank you.
Okay. So Mayor and Council, just a couple more slides to our point. We wanted to honor the budgets that we've had from day one. And initially, prior to the June 24th presentation of the Murphy Park, we had about a $4.3 million project that included both soft costs and hard construction costs. And then with the presentation, based on all the input and feedback we had initially on the 24th, the council looked at an all-in scheme, the B++ scheme, which is Concept C that Mike presented, with all its amenities, would included a gazebo, the additional lighting, and some of the security items, but most of it is new irrigation and turf, and the donor plaques being removed and reinstalled very carefully. The budget on the construction side was increased to 4.9. The soft costs remained the same, but the project cost that we talk about, went to 6.2. So that's what was approved on the 24th. We're still honoring that. So those are the pieces that we have. And technically, when we go to GMP4, which is hopefully our final GMP for the project, which is the Murphy Park phase of construction, would include all those elements. However, we wanted to make sure you saw it in the full scheme of things with the entire project. So even prior to that, a year plus, when we did GMP3, the project was trending about $96 million overall as a project. So when you add in what we just talked about for Murphy Park, which is remaining in the budget that we just approved in June, and you add in the 6.2 million altogether, you're looking at 97.9 as a complete project. However, to the point that was just made a few minutes ago on security, we also approached everyone here in June about potential scope issues that we needed to have. One of them was security, but the other was some code upgrades that we needed to do on the garage that were never part of the original scope of the project. And part of it is that once we started to renovate the garage and really the whole site in whole, a couple of these areas that we didn't feel comfortable trying to grandfather in from a code perspective. So we broached the topic actually in August. I correct myself. It was in August that we showed you a little bit of our trending of spends and so forth. But we felt that it was important to tell everyone today that code upgrades and some safety upgrades and the opportunities to think about some enhancements that we haven't quite fully realized just yet between now and the end of the project, we wanted to bring to the table an additional request of $800,000 to help with those costs. That 7 months is coming up pretty fast here, and this was an opportunity to give us some flexibility. And our goal was to up to the $800,000 is applied to GMP4. We may put the whole 800 in it. We may reduce a little bit of it depending on the actual needs when we finish our documents in the next few days. So, you know, we wanted to just be transparent about that. And should this proposed additional scope be acceptable, our proposed project total would increase to $98,700,000, which is really a delta of 2.7 from where we were before. So with that, one more slide I wanted to bring to your attention. We are working feverishly to get this done. We started the Murphy Park a little bit behind where we wanted to begin with. And there's various reasons why, but this team has been working really hard and diligently to catch up and try to expedite things as best we can. So we're ready to submit for permit. And shortly thereafter, on October 14th is our goal, but potentially the 28th. But to meet the schedule, we'd like to do this on the 24th, to submit GMP 4. So at that point, it'll be 4.9 or it might be 5.7, depending on how much of the 800,000 that we were approved to use, should we get that approval. The goal is for that to go right into construction. So if you notice, the fence line was readjusted yesterday to provide some additional parking in the interim between now and the middle of October. But shortly thereafter, we will have to readjust for all the demolition activities to get started with the site and then move forward with complete construction. Our goal is to bring Murphy Park together in April around the same time that we substantially complete the main building project. That, again, both projects, when we said substantially complete, would mean there's still some punch activities and some refinements and buttoning up before we completely complete the project. But the goal was to get both of these projects in by April, and the team is working really hard to do that. So there's the urgency on this side of the table to keep moving with that. So with that, we can definitely address more of your questions.
Okay, could you bring the slide back with a picture of the gazebo or your rendition? I'm not in love with that rendition. I guess I could live with most of it. To look like a gazebo, it needs to have some sort of railing going around it. And obviously, you would want ingress, egress, 2 locations. I'm sure you have the ramp for ADA, and then I'm guessing on the other side. The advantage of doing that also to make it look more traditional, more like a gazebo, but it'll also keep the skateboarders from jumping off the edge onto the sidewalk, which I think we really need to pay more attention to. I think that we need to push forward with the gazebo because it's going to have to be wired for lights. I'm guessing there's different things that you guys are going to want to do to make sure that it's ready to go, and we don't want people up there at night tripping over the edge. Or I think that guardrail, I think, would be really, really important. It wouldn't be terribly expensive. I'm not in love with the top of it. I don't think it looks like a traditional gazebo, but it still is it's still accomplishing, I guess, the same thing. My vision of a gazebo, people want to get married at the city park. It looks like a gazebo. People want to have a small band out there. People are going to want to go out there and stump. I mean, there's all sorts of things that people will look traditionally to do. So I don't want to stop. I want to keep pushing forward. I don't want to slow the process down. If in the future, and I think we're years off before we'd ever do something with the library, but in the future, if we decide we want to move the library rather than rebuild it, raise what we have and move it to a different location, the gazebo is not a huge expense. I mean, it's probably the cheapest thing that we're building of the entire park, I'm guessing. There's not a huge expense that I actually see there. But I think we should do it right to begin with. I really think, more than anything, I think we should have that railing around it or something that looks a little bit more like a traditional gazebo. The size, I think you're perfect on. If your cement radius is about 25 feet, I think that's a really nice size. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yes, Mayor. In terms of the location and where the gazebo is, the only concern that I have is the sidewalk and potentially having a crowd of people on the sidewalk and blocking people who have scooters or ADA from even getting to the ramp. So if there's a way in the design to make it that the stage is usually in the grass or something like that, that would make me feel better because I wouldn't want the sidewalk to be blocked by a crowd of people. And I'll just leave it at that for now. Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So to pick up where I left off, I wanted to touch on the lighting. There were like 3 options in the lighting, and it looked like 2 of them had adjustable LED lighting with the red, green, blue, and the multitude of colors that you can produce from that. I definitely think we should go that direction and have them adjustable. I envision the park being a cornerstone for activities that could include things like Breast Cancer Awareness Month and lighting the park in pink for the month, or public safety awareness, which I think is blue. I could see, particularly if our Founders Day celebration takes off, or for any other reason, we might develop a Paint the Town Red weekend or something like that to encourage people to come downtown for entertainment and activities and those sorts of things. There's just so many opportunities throughout the year where we could use that changeable lighting to help really build and drive home the theme. So I think that it's a good investment for us to go to that. And then to come back to the trees, the treescape that I mentioned. I don't know if it was 25 or 30 years ago, but sometime back, the last time we looked at downtown Glendale and developing a theme and streetscape and all of that for it, and we came up with the the turn of the century mode preceded that, but as an offshoot from that, it was to help make downtown more walkable, and we put in brick sidewalks and the canopies and trees, and the public at that time decided that with their input, it was decided that the two predominant trees, not necessarily the only trees, but the two predominant trees at the time should be the Chinese pistache, which I see you have a pistache here, and the other one was the Arizona ash. And the advantages of those two trees are they both change colors in the fall in our climate. So you get that Midwest or back east feeling of autumn, and it just makes such a pretty streetscape for us, and it would make the park. So we have a number of the pistache still around, and I think we still have a fair number of the Arizona ash, and that the pistache turns more of a red and the ash turns a very bright gold yellow, and together they just really make a nice fall scene for those few weeks. Fall in Arizona is kind of blink and you miss it, but we do have it, and I'd like us to come off with that. Another reason to me that I think that the Arizona ash is important is because it directly ties into W.J. Murphy and Murphy Park. Murphy apparently was the one who identified the Arizona ash as, in essence, a species that was unique to Arizona. As you drive through the elevations of the state that are basically less than 5,000 feet in the fall, and you look off to the side and you see washes with these glowing yellow trees, those are Arizona ashes. And he propagated those, and those are the trees that line Central Avenue from Bethany Home Road to the Arizona Canal, or more likely from the canal down to Bethany Home Road, on both sides of Central Avenue, and been there for over 100 years now. And new ones have been planted, but that's what they replant with. His home when he lived here in the valley was at Orangewood and Central Avenue, so that was kind of the gateway to his property. So it just has historic connection, as well as providing the colorful Midwest or New England type of fall we can have here. So I would argue, I will put my vote or my consensus in that we include the Arizona ash as part of the treescape, and keep them in predominance, not the only ones, but we should have plenty of them so that we get that color effect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted, I might have misunderstood Councilmember Conchas about so I believe I see a ramp at the gazebo. Isn't there a ramp?
Yes.
So it has to be ADA compliant, I would think, anyway.
Yes.
They're trying, there it is.
Mayor, Council, Vice Mayor Tomachov, yes, that is it's considered a sloped plane, so it's not at the ADA, it's accessible, yes, but it doesn't require the handrails that a typical ramp does. So it's at 1:20 scale, or 1:20 slope. So it doesn't require the handrails, but it's an accessible slope. It's more like a sloped plane sidewalk. But it does provide ADA accessibility.
Okay, and I do, I'm not, I don't know about I think the mayor said a trellis or something. I do think that, the idea of the gazebo could use a little more work, maybe more landscape. I don't know. It just does look kind of like we just decided to plop it in there, to me anyway. I mean, I don't know if there's some way to put more landscape all the way around rather than maybe a fence border or something, to separate it off from the rest of the park. I don't know, but it does look, because the backside, at least, I guess there's no back and front, but the side that is surrounded by grass, possibly we could maybe do some sort of landscaping there just to kind of accentuate it a little bit more. I don't know, that's just my thought. I mean, if I was putting that in my yard or somewhere, I'd want a little bit more there around it. I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but I think we could, I know that you're showing a bed of some sort of landscape along the sidewalk, but maybe we could do a little bit more just to kind of accentuate it and sort of separate it a little bit more. I think that's what the mayor was looking for, was some sort of separation to show that this is something a little bit different here in the park. That's just my thought. Thank you.
Mr. Milner?
Thank you, Mayor. I would agree with moving forward with the gazebo as you have planned there, and I would agree with the concept of perhaps the railing around it. I think it does look, could be improved a little bit. I think the railing around it could help us. I don't think skateboarders are allowed in the park now, but I think that would encourage them if they had a jumping off point. And so I think putting a rail around it, something to help prevent that, would be beneficial. I also agree with the upgrades that you're proposing for security. I think it'd be well worth our money to take care of that and do those kind of upgrades now. I know it increases the scope and the cost of the project, but I think what you've laid out here will be very beneficial for the public. Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Yes, Mayor. Just to clarify, I was talking about the fact that there is no front or back, not the ramp. Just not wanting to have any crowds or people block the sidewalk from any ADA. I would like to see a more traditional gazebo in the design, but I see that there's consensus for the gazebo, so I think that we should continue with the project. Thank you, Mayor.
Back on the gazebo, if we, by continuing it, they're still going to take into consideration that we want it to look different, right?
Correct. I think they understand that.
Okay. I noticed on this picture, it's pretty large, the step from the sidewalk up to that. I'm not seeing the...
18 inches. You did say 18 inches, did you not?
Yeah.
Mayor, council, yes, 18 inches to the stage. So in the foreground of that image is a low wall. The height of that wall is 18 inches. Behind it is the ramp. And then you could see the handrails in the photo. That's where the 2 steps are that get you up there.
Would that change if you put, some railings around the whole thing to make it look more traditional? Is that going to affect that?
I think we can integrate it. I like the idea of the landscape kind of defining a vertical plane, and then the handrail guardrail behind that could also accentuate that. I think you would still want to have a way to step off into the grass if there's something that way, and then a way to step off on the other side.
Right.
But those 2 things would work together to define the space.
Okay, thank you.
My advice is, there's thousands of pictures of traditional gazebos. I built my own a few years ago. I think I even showed you a picture of that. And mine's not probably what other people would want, but it worked for me. But again, it makes it nice that you don't have to worry about somebody accidentally stepping off or forgetting that there's an 18-inch drop-off. So safety-wise, I think it would be brilliant. At the same time, I think it would solve a lot of the problems with, even though we have ordinances that say you can't ride a skateboard in there, we all know that people are going to do it because we don't have law enforcement there every waking minute. So rather than have to worry about that, I think that would solve two problems at the same time. The more traditional it looks, I think we're gonna find the more that we have citizens that want to utilize it. And ultimately, that's what I want. I want people to wanna come to the park and utilize what we have. You had a question?
Yes, Mayor. Thank you so much. I did a little bit of research, and there's in Eagle, Idaho, they have Heritage Park and gazebo, and it looks really traditional. So I would give that as inspiration for a traditional gazebo. And then after we're done talking about the gazebo, Mayor, I'd like to ask about Glendale Glitters and the plan for that, but I'm not sure if that's part of this conversation or for offline.
Yeah, it's not, it would not be part of this conversation. I don't know how we can tie that in, but we need to get a consensus on where we're at right now.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Thank you. The idea of the railing also gives people that the mayor mentioned somebody may want to hold a wedding there or something. The railing gives people more of an opportunity to kind of decorate it or do things to it. And the way it stands, there's really, other than just the perimeter poles, there's really not a whole lot you could do with it. But if you had a railing or something around it, and it could be, for Christmas or for other St. Patrick's Day or whatever, you could decorate. It gives you more opportunities to use it or make more use of it for people doing whatever kind of event they wanted to do there. So I think that really is a good idea.
One more thing. On the roof of this, if we're talking traditional, that means changing that also, right? Because
I would like them to find something more traditional and bring back to us, but
Yeah.
I still want them to keep moving forward. I don't want to slow down.
right, but I mean, that, including the roof, because that would not, yeah, that's not, I don't want to say ugly, but
Off? I did. Is this going to be like one of those aluminum things that's formed to look like wood? One of those, what is this, or what is because you can get those made to look to like just about anything, but I'm just curious what you're showing us, what is, it's not going to be wood, obviously, that doesn't wear well. Or
Yes,
I
Mayor,
hope not
Council,
anyway.
It's metal, so it's the same construction that we were using on the amphitheater canopy that you've seen recently. So all of this is metal, and then it would be painted the color to match.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. I really appreciate all the work in this. As far as we're talking about the gazebo here, I do appreciate how it's, I'm guessing the thought process was to kind of echo the feeling and the look of the amphitheater. I understand it's not a true gazebo in a traditional sense, but I'm going to say maybe our amphitheater isn't either, nor the building. It's completely different from what we used to have. I like the way this looks. I don't have any problem with it. I do agree with the mayor and Vice Mayor Tomachoff of maybe having railing around the sides. I also would say to maybe where the ramp and the front steps, having some simple gates so that we can completely deter anybody ever when we're not using it. Skateboarders and the mayor on his BMX bike trying to hop off there. I mean, if we could just kind of real simply, but we could still swing them open and still have the full effect and use of that. Just an idea, if that's possible. I don't know if it is or not, but if it's possible. I do like the idea of some perimeter landscaping that the vice mayor added. It would be very nice. It would be. I'm assuming there's going to be some power outlets in there, something for some sort of equipment of temporary equipment, stuff like that. I think it looks great. Maybe a few little just enhancements just to make it just, I don't want to say better, but just slightly accessorize. That's maybe the better word, but I think it looks great. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Mayor and Council, if I could add a little bit more to Michael's commentary regarding the design of the gazebo. Again, we felt pretty strongly about the one campus idea. So the materials and working with our contractor and their subs and so forth. We felt this was a good way to honor that. And I think the comments regarding the guards or even the deterrence and even the landscaping ideas, I think those are really strong comments that can be accommodated pretty easily. I think we were, from the design side, we liked the idea that it was not necessarily a completely covered roof system to it, where it's really just shade and shadow. And there was something very elegant about that, even using a gabled or pitched look to it, so it's not flat. But it does have form, and it just felt to us as a team evaluating it that it was more welcoming this way. It didn't cast this sort of dark shadow on the site or anything like that. It was just very elegant. And as you walk from the Civic Center or any parts of the downtown that come to this campus, this really starts to set some quiet zone to it. It's very subtle. So it was we thought that the roof was very elegant. Would that be on the table if the roof stayed the same form and the same construction details, but we improved the ground plane, to your point? Would you consider that as acceptable?
I can't speak for everybody else. I would like to see 2 or 3 options, is what I'd like to see. I have a picture of the gazebo that I actually built at my home, and to incorporate the bottom part that I was talking about with that could work. It could actually work. But again, I don't know if anybody would ever call it a gazebo or if they're just going to call it a shade structure. And I think there are certain people that, young people getting married, that romanticize about that traditional style, and that's all I'm thinking about. So personally, I'd just like to see 2 or 3 different ideas, and then let the council, hash that out, and then go from there. But again, I want you to keep moving forward too.
Okay.
Does everybody agree with that? That seems to be, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
I don't agree with the roofing. I agree with it. I think I would like to see it more traditional gazebo, is what I'd like. I don't like that. That to me isn't a gazebo. That is a shade structure in the middle of the park that would be used. But if we want it to be used as a gazebo, that doesn't do it for me. And I'm kind of old traditional, so.
If I could switch just a little bit, going back to the trees, Mr. Turner was talking about ash trees, and I agree with him. I actually planted 25 years ago, 10 of those at my property, and I get the most beautiful red and golden fall colors for a very short time, but I do get them. And the nice part about that is you get great shade in the summertime when you really need it. And in the wintertime, it would give us the opportunity, if we were going to decorate those branches without leaves on it, we have that opportunity too. So I'm not sure what the total will be as far as the amount of each or where you put them, but if you'd consider that, I would back that up. Do we have a consensus for them to keep moving forward? Yes? Okay. Was that the only question you have for us right now?
Mayor, Council, that was it. We just wanted to be really clear about the additional amount that we're requesting. I'm hearing consensus for all of that.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Barr, if you'd go to item number 2.
Amend City Code, Chapter 14, Emergency Management.
So Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff for item on number 2 is Nicole Munson, our Director, Emergency Management.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. Today I am presenting to you a couple of additional revisions to Chapter 14, the City Code chapter on emergency management. For a little bit of historical background, we previously revised this code on October 24th, 2023 to modernize the language to reflect the current focus and terminology of the emergency management discipline. At that time, we increased clarity on the roles and responsibilities of the city's emergency management organization. On July 1st, 2024, emergency management became a department and now has a director leading it. The amendments I am proposing today are to update the definition of director, assign responsibility of the department's function to the director, and then delineate the advisor roles of the director and city manager during emergencies. The director would then serve as advisor to the city manager, and the city manager would serve as advisor to the mayor. I would like to seek consensus for council to consider these proposed amendments to Chapter 14 at the voting meeting on October 14th of this year.
Vice Mayor?
Councilmember Conchas?
Yes, thank you very much for bringing this to the council. And I have been FEMA trained in emergency management twice from the Department of Homeland Security. So I appreciate that we're talking about emergency management and just how important it is. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilmember Milner? Councilmember Milner, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, when we're talking about emergency management, I had conversations in the past with Mr. St. John regarding this and some of the roles that the citizens can engage in. And maybe you were part of that conversation, I'm not sure. What role or what engagement will the community or the citizens have with this with this concept?
So this change does not actually account for any citizen involvement. That would be a program that we would implement at the department level. We are currently focused on establishing our baseline plans and growing the program from there.
Okay, yeah, I would like to see, citizen involved, because I had citizens come forward when they heard that we were doing this, that they wanted to see some programming for them to be engaged with, and I think that's important. And in particular, they were like ham radio operators who would like to, be engaged in that type of emergency planning.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilmember Milner.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
This is an ordinance, I would assume, that this is to amend an ordinance?
That is correct, Vice Mayor
So
Tomachov.
what is the language that you're proposing? Because I don't see the actual language here.
I do believe that I submitted the ordinance as part of the packet.
It's not,
It's not attached?
no.
Okay. I will get that submitted up. If I need to come back to council with that, I can do that.
Oh, yeah, because I know I'm kind of a nerd that way. I like to read what does it say now? What are we changing it to? So this, in the event of an emergency, the mayor declares the emergency, and then the mayor, we did this during COVID, and then the mayor rules, the mayor becomes, he rules, and it basically takes on an administrative role also, can direct employees with proclamations. And this has no effect on that, correct?
No, that is correct, Vice Mayor Tomachov.
So was the city manager not already an advisor to the mayor, or this just actually spells it out in the ordinance? That's why I want to read the ordinance.
Mayor, Vice Mayor Tomachov, that's correct. So the way that the ordinance was written or is currently written is that the city manager is the director of the emergency management organization. Because we now have a director leading the emergency management organization, this clarifies the definition of director to be the department director. And it still keeps the city manager as the advisor to the mayor and makes the director of emergency management the advisor to the city manager.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So I guess what we all need, I don't think we need to go to another workshop, but I do think everybody needs to get that verbiage exactly before it comes back to us for a vote.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I will work through the city clerk's office on that matter.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Yes, and so we'll get the information to you, and then if any of you have a question, you can reach out either directly to Nicole or you can reach out to my office. And then if you still have questions, we can always bring it back, but we'll try to answer your questions. But if I'm hearing it okay, we'll go ahead and get this scheduled for the appropriate next voting meeting.
Right.
Okay.
With information that we all get. Perfect. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, moving right along. City manager's report.
Mayor, members of the council, I think my next update is ready to roll. Hello. Well, fall is finally here, and with the new season comes plenty of excitement right here in Glendale. Our city is becoming a hub for luxury car dealerships. And now Porsche has joined the lineup with a new state-of-the-art dealership near the Loop 101 and Bell Road. This 60,000 square foot Porsche Gen 5 design facility is a premium destination for sales, service, and parts. There are only about 200 Porsche dealerships across the entire country. The fact that Porsche chose Glendale says a lot. It shows just how much influence Glendale and the West Valley are gaining and confirms that our community is strong enough to support an exclusive high-end brand. More than 1,000 people came together at Desert Diamond Arena to honor and remember first responders who were killed in the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Glendale first responders and recruits joined the crowd, climbing 2,071 arena stairs. That's the same number of steps it took to reach the top of the World Trade Center Twin Towers. Each participant wore a lanyard with the photo of a fallen hero. This annual tradition supports the 100 Club, which helps first responders and their families after line-of-duty deaths or injuries. We're inviting residents to learn more about the upcoming bond election and get their questions answered. We'll be hosting a series of open house meetings. These sessions are a chance for the community to dive into the details of the proposed bonds and speak directly with city staff. The first meeting is Thursday, September 25th at the Glendale Civic Center. A full list of meetings and more information on the election is available on our website. Our human resources team is helping city leaders strengthen their skills with a new training program. It's called the Essentials of Supervision. The interactive course gives both new and experienced supervisors the tools to confidently lead their teams. Participants will practice skills in communication, teamwork, leadership, and accountability, and leave with the strategies they can put to use. Glendale is launching a brand new podcast called Game On, Glendale AZ. Hosted by our Emmy Award-winning communications team, the podcast features interviews with Glendale's MVPs and dives into the culture of our community. You'll hear all about the people, events, and amenities that make Glendale a champion city. You can subscribe to Game On Glendale AZ on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. Video versions will be available on the city's YouTube and Facebook pages. In honor of National Preparedness Month, our emergency management team is encouraging everyone to build a basic preparedness kit. A go bag should have clothes, hygiene items, and sturdy shoes. Other important items include a seatbelt cutter, compact survival kit, dehydrated food, a power bank, and copies of important documents. Taking small steps now can make a big difference in an emergency. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with more updates soon.
Mr. Bailey?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to follow up because we didn't get a chance to address this issue when we taped this, but I just wanted to extend a tremendous thanks to the Glendale team for the outstanding job they did this past weekend. I know some of you will likely have comments as well, but the one driving thought that is for me is that I've shared with our team is that this team is so good that they take the complicated and the complex and they make it look really easy when it's anything but easy. That's a real testament to the dedication and the skill. I don't think we showed off our city any better than we did this weekend with very short window of opportunity to plan for this. It went off flawlessly. I know that the organizers for the event were very grateful, and it was recognized by that. But I, as the city manager, wanted to thank my team. I know you'll have some comments as well, but that was a job well done.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, you said you had nothing?
Oh, I have a few items now. No, I'm still not. Thank you.
Okay, well, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. Mr. Baldonegro. Council items of special interest. Have you any? None? Councilmember Conscious?
Mayor, can we get a memo on Glendale Glitters and what the plan and rollout is for that? Thank you.
Councilmember Guzman?
Nothing, sir.
Councilmember Milner?
Nothing today, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Turner?
Not today, Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Mayor, I'd just like to reiterate, I think I asked for that the last, when we talked about fencing off Murphy Park, that I had asked for an update on what we were going to do with Glendale Glitter. So I believe Mr. City Manager shaking his head that is coming. So, and I don't have anything else, Mayor.
Okay, I'm going to double down on what our city manager just said. I did go to the event, and if you weren't there, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. The amount of people that showed up. I've heard numbers from inside the arena and stadium of upwards of 85 to 90,000. I don't know how close that is, but I've heard those numbers. But I've also heard numbers from close to 250,000 people in the Westgate area altogether, total combined with everybody. Again, I don't know how true that is, but it seemed like 1 million. And it was a lot of people, and the way our fire, the way our police, and all of our partners, transportation, I mean, every agency that's within the city that was involved, it was as good as it could go. My understanding is that there was a total of 2 tickets cited. 2 tickets cited, not even arrested, but just cited, and that was for people that were flying illegal drones. And I guess it wasn't even really that mischievous. What's the word? That one. There was no ill will that I guess the people were trying to do. I guess they were just trying to get an idea how big things were. So again, Kevin said it exactly. You know, the city has made these things for the outsiders look like, you know, it's just another day. I know the amount of work that's been put in. I know the amount of sacrifice a lot of people made. But again, it makes me incredibly proud to be the mayor of a city that has enough employees, 2,000 employees that really care about what they do each and every day. And it shows. It absolutely shows. So my hat's off to the city manager, your staff, and all of our city employees. You guys just, you're awesome. As simple as that. You're just awesome. So thank you so much for that. At this point, could I get a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
Okay, who made the motion?
Councilmember Turner.
Okay, Mr. Turner made the motion. A second was from Mr. Milner. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, vote aye. Any opposed, vote nay. Here's the ayes have it. Do have it. That motion carries. We're now in recess for exec.